Good afternoon, everyone. My name is David Turner. I'm the Managing Director here at RiskNZ Zealand, and great to have you with us today. Welcome to the October Lunchtime Seminar. Our lunchtime seminars run most months and they remain one of the most popular events. I would like to thank and acknowledge the support of RiskNZ Zealand sponsors who make this possible. That's Marsh, CAMS, SIO Global, F24, Azenic, and Safety Associates. But I please ask that all participants keep their microphones on mute, but please feel free to type questions straight into the webinar platform anytime during the session. So now on today's exciting topic, improving economic development of New Zealand through risk and opportunity management. It's my great pleasure to introduce you all to Dr. Anna Earl. Anna is a lecturer in management at the University of Canterbury, New Zealand. Her main research interests include the relationship between government and multinational enterprises, internationalization processes of multinational enterprises from emerging economies, and application of institutional theory to various disciplines. Her recent research interest is in societies and smart cities. She has co-authored a book, Institutional Theory in Tourism and Hospitality, and published in Journal of International Management, Tourism Management Perspective, Journal of Business and Industries Marketing, and others. She serves on editorial boards for Journal of International Management, International Journal of Emerging Markets, and Review of International Business and Strategy. Thank you, Anna. Please take it away.
Thank you, David. Hello, everyone. I am very, very excited to be talking to you today and show my slides. So I'm going to be talking about, as David said, about improving economic development of New Zealand and how we look at risk and opportunity through kind of technology, data and innovation. So from a little bit different point of view than the traditional way. So a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Russia. I came to New Zealand about 20 years ago. And I did my first degree in tourism and hospitality at the Pacific International Hotel Management School. I then went on to gaining a master's degree and my PhD at the University of Auckland Business School, where I in international business. So that was my PhD, that was my training, PhD training. I then worked with Fonterra on a research project on optimization of milk production and milk development. And I also worked with H&S Partners. They are an investment company based in New York, where we looked at data mining for online platforms such as TradeMe and Facebook Marketplace. I closely cooperate with the Ural Federal University in Yekaterinburg in Russia. So that's my hometown. And so I work with them on the smart cities projects. I joined the University of Canterbury about 3 years ago, and we are the first university globally to partner up with Smart Cities Councils, Australia and New Zealand, and this is where a lot of this thinking about sharing data and technology coming from. I cooperate closely with Christchurch City Council and Smart City Council Australia and New Zealand. We work together on my MBA course, Societies in Smart Cities, where we get students to work on challenges that are associated with risk and opportunities. So I will share some of that with you today. So when we talk about risk usually is defined or associated with the possibility of something bad happening at some time in the future, or a situation that could be dangerous or have bad kind of results or implications for businesses, for individuals' health, for humanity, or for wider ecology. The traditional understanding of risk has influenced the scope of the risk management process as such, which aims to avoid or minimize potential problems by acting quite proactively. I look at risk slightly differently. I look at it as an opportunity to learn and develop. And this interaction between risk and opportunity can lead to economic development, especially after COVID and during COVID. So I want to share my experience in terms of risk and opportunity in relation to education, collaboration, and data sharing. So when we talk about education particularly in different economies, and when we apply this concept of education, it may seem as risk. For example, in Russia, the more educated the society is, the more questions they will ask about the current governance structures and governance decision-making. So the government doesn't like it. So they have an ability, and they've done it before, to lower the high school exam requirements for passing. So this gives the government an opportunity to control current political system through education. In New Zealand, education can be seen as in a very different sense. It is the risk association of the risk that we associate with education is accessibility to education. Accessibility by different social demographics to tertiary qualifications. So this provides opportunity to New Zealand leaders in tertiary education to ensure that there are opportunities for people at different stages of their lives and people from different backgrounds to access high quality education. And we have seen it a lot that education providers, including University of Canterbury Business School, that we had to change the way we teach during COVID. And that was due to the fact that we've engaged in a lot of collaboration with businesses because we wanted to provide people who lost their jobs during that first lockdown. We wanted to develop opportunities for those people to come and upskill. So all of a sudden, we're not just teaching our youth, but we're also teaching a lot more experienced people. We all know that collaboration can provide a lot of opportunities for growth and development. Yet in my experience working with businesses and through my research, I found that a lot of businesses see collaboration as a risk to lose their competitive advantage, their IP, or they simply view other businesses as their competitors, and hence they don't want to collaborate, engage in that collaborative relationship. This is problematic if we as a nation want to grow and develop and provide opportunities for people. So when we talk about data sharing, whether it is data about consumers, whether it is data about their spending, their demographics, or whether it is data about students' engagement, for example, with the content in their lectures, it is a challenge that most businesses, particularly in the private sector, see as a risk to privacy, risk to become less competitive and losing their IP. Data sharing is somewhat a new concept, and we're working in that, and councils, Smart City Council Australia and New Zealand have done a fantastic job in trying to change consumers or businesses' opinions on and perceptions about data sharing. We do have, we know that government organizations such as councils, they are better at sharing data. One of the clear examples about that collaboration and data sharing was Genesis Energy Company and Hamilton City Council, where they developed opportunity, where they developed that collaboration, where Genesis shared their data about energy consumption. So this way, the Hamilton City Council was able to actually see when the consumption was high and provide lower rates for those hours. So that's a clear successful collaboration and data sharing. However, this is one of examples that is happening. So data sharing often viewed as a risk because of a lack of understanding of what value that would bring, that data sharing would actually bring to businesses themselves. So there is a lot of risk involved in terms of consumers and for businesses to sharing data. However, it can also provide a lot of opportunities for growth, for development, and for saving. So data and technology should be looked at as an opportunity as opposed to as risk. So I'm going to share where University of Canterbury MBA program and my course, Societies and Smart Cities, how we have used data and technology for good. So we've, last year, we've developed, so as part of the MBA program of the MBA course, we do intensive weekend programs. And during those intensive weekends, groups of students, they work on different challenges. So last year we worked on waste management, and waste management continues to be a major challenge in New Zealand. And not just for Christchurch, but for in New Zealand as a whole. And under the New Zealand Waste Minimisation Act 2008 and the New Zealand Waste Strategy 2010, councils are responsible to promote efficient and effective waste management and minimisation. For example, one of the key community outcomes in the Christchurch City Council strategic framework is to minimise waste and use resources sustainably. So in Christchurch, about approximately 200,000 tonnes of waste is sent to landfill each year. This is around 538 kgs per person in Christchurch. Another 115 tonnes is processed through the city's recycling and organic facilities. In 2012, the recycling volume picked up, but since then it has been a downhill trend, and that's due to the stricter controls around contamination and reduction of acceptable items. So contaminated recycling materials are diverted to landfill, and most of the current recycling is sent to overseas for processing into new products. However, recent significant shifts in practices in various international markets have created new challenges for Christchurch. As overseas markets, for example, like China and other markets in Southeast Asia, have been returning recycling of Christchurch back to New Zealand due to increased level of contamination. As a result, this has become not just a New Zealand problem, but that also became an international relation issue that New Zealand faces as a whole. So what we did in the intensive weekend and what our MBA students come up with is there was a clear understanding that this contamination, that consumers, that Christchurch households, particularly Canterbury households, they do not understand that they're not educated well enough about recycling, so they don't engage in it in a kind of a sustainable and efficient and effective manner. So to address this problem, Christchurch City Council, as part of their Smart Cities initiative, they partnered up with local startup firms and us at the University of Canterbury to develop innovative technologies and service approaches to reduce waste. One such solution was the development of big belly solar bins, which we can see around Christchurch now, and rubbish bin sensors. So this helped Christchurch City Council to use the resources that they had sustainably, because this reduced bin collection from 21 to once a week. So that is significant. We know there is clear collaboration between private and public sector that Christchurch City Council works on as part of their risk and opportunity management process. Because city councils around New Zealand, they look at their waste minimisation initiatives separately in silos. So to achieve New Zealand's sustainable development goal of becoming sustainable by 2030, the councils around the country, they need to delocalise waste management and begin to collaborate amongst themselves and the national governments. So it becomes a collective national agenda that businesses or the councils tackle together. Another project that we're working on this year in our MBA course is around activating Christchurch tourism. So we know that tourism is one of the key industries for New Zealand. The total visitor economy is expected, however, to contract by between 8.7 billion and between 17.2 billion annually without our international tourists. So Tourism New Zealand estimated that if New Zealanders redirected their pre-COVID spending into domestic tourism, that can significantly help domestic tourism businesses to remain in business and remain successful. So Christchurch promotes itself as a tourism destination and a getaway for other destinations on South Island. Christchurch is usually 1 or 2 stopover hubs for domestic and international tourism. So we found when we went and we talked to a lot of tourism companies here around Christchurch and identified what the problem is and where the risk did a risk assessment and where that, what do they see as the biggest issue? And this was primarily attributed to lack of awareness of existing attractions in the city and on the outskirts of Christchurch, so wider Canterbury kind of region. So we talked, I'm not sure if there is anybody from Christchurch listening to this, but we've partnered up and working now together with Christchurch Adventure Park, Ferrymead Heritage Park, International Antarctic Centre, Arana Wildlife Park, Velocity Carts, Willowbank Wildlife Park, and Hepunatai Moana, which is our new hot pools in New Brighton. Now, these attractions are fundamental to the tourism industry in Christchurch, and they are all facing the same issue. So lack of awareness of what they have to offer and what Christchurch in general has to offer. So we set a challenge for our students to work on these issues. Once we started, so this issue came about of talking with Christchurch City Council and talking with Christchurch NZ, and the challenge, once we were talking with all these businesses, the challenge that these businesses are facing is that there is a very clear lack of collaboration amongst themselves, as well as lack of interest in sharing data because they view it as their competitive advantage. So when I asked, are you willing to share your data, for example, about what are the demographics? And it's not about giving out all your cards, but it is about actually understanding the value of how collectively we can work on this issue for Christchurch. None of this, when we asked them, would you like to share data? None of these businesses wanted to share data. But interestingly, none of them actually know how to use that data for good. So they've got data, but they don't understand how can they use that data to engage in collaboration, use the data to enhance domestic tourism experience in Christchurch, and make the city interesting for tourists, and where the tourists and travelers can spend more time. So we want to move away from just being a 1 night or 2 night stopover hub, but we want to increase the time that tourists spend here and money that they spend here and come back to us. So this can help economic development of the Canterbury region as a whole. So as part of UCMBA Challenge, our students, we were asked them to, first of all, to work on how can we break into the mindset of these businesses and share some data. So then our students can go and start working on developing a plan for increasing awareness through different digital platforms. Again, with these digital platforms where they bring that collaboration together. So these collaborations amongst the businesses in Christchurch, Christchurch City Council, Christchurch, New Zealand, and University of Canterbury. It provides a lot of opportunities through capitalizing on student experience and student thinking. So there are 3 stages of smart thinking, and that smart thinking has evolved as our cities and our societies have evolved in their thinking about smart technologies. So the first stage was making the technology available, and it was very much that smart thinking and smart learning, it was very much driven about simply having the technology. So it was technology driven. The second stage of evolution of smart thinking, it was kind of at that stage when technology became available, our governments began to understand that they could see the benefits that tech can have on communities and cities. And so it became really a government-driven agenda. New Zealand is interesting. We're one of the first in driving the smart thinking globally, and we have done exceptionally well in this space. The third stage of smart city thinking is the citizen-driven smart thinking, so which is achieved through high level of collaboration and collaborative learning. So there is a lot of research conducted in education field on smart learning. And key 3 factors that influence smart learning are having a smart learning environment, engaging in collaborative learning, and perception of the learners about learning, and that goes back to being self-aware of and engaging in self-reflection about your learning techniques. These perceptions are built throughout our upbringing. And that leads me to my next point about helping youth and helping our younger generation to become more literate. So I'm in a good space. So you can see 2 photos there. One of them is where learning happens. So that's my daughter's preschool, and they are very, very privileged. You know, they have a very high qualified teachers who teach them every week. They develop new different topics for them, and these girls are going to grow up in a very, very, very privileged environment where they have access to this learning opportunities and learning skills. When on the other side, you can see in other markets, and we don't need to go far, we can look in New Zealand and different social economic levels here, that kids would not have equal opportunities for learning. So for me, for example, it is my my giving back is, and through hopefully educating kids, educating younger generations that come through universities, I'm in a good space to teach younger generations about equal opportunities for all, right? And this is not just kids becoming more literate, is not simply about availability of technology. It is the capacity and skills of younger generations, of our youth, to use that technology that can create a lot of opportunities for other generations, for younger generations. How do we develop that capacity and skills in our younger generations? It has to come through businesses. It has to come through organizations such as Risk New Zealand, through education providers, through primary schools and other organizations and businesses that operate in that space. There is also, when we look at these two pictures, right, like there is also a need to close the gap between digital divide, because we want younger generation to have those equal opportunities, to have those equal lifestyle that kids from privileged families have, and that requires, so there is a lot of research in relationship to that, and how do we bring that digital divide? That's creating space for younger generations to actually talk about that, and developing those skills and capabilities on a personalized kind of content of understanding. So we know that risk is about, or managing risk is about, primarily is about managing or understanding people. So it is understanding our different younger generations from different demographics in our society, and developing personalized skills, personalized programs on how can we upskill them and develop them. Now, this would make our kids, our younger generations, right, a lot more adaptable, which is important when talking about risk and when mitigating risks. So our economic development, it is not only about economic growth, although it is very important. But when we look at economic development, right, it is about the economic well-being. It is about quality of life of a country, of a nation, of different regions, of local communities, and of individuals. So understanding the importance of that interplay between risk and opportunities can lead to some interesting developments, and in how we look at the risk and opportunity management process more innovatively. So as opposed to thinking about it in a traditional sense that it should have some sort of implications, we mitigate, we develop strategies, we mitigate for that risk that we anticipate happening to us in the future, but we can actually look at it from a more kind of, if you like, that ecosystem point of view, and we look at our upbringing. We'll look at how can we change the way we operate as a society and as businesses, in terms of creating a better kind of that quality of life, a better future for our citizens. Technology and data can be used can be used in a very, very innovative way to help and improve the quality of life of our communities. Technology can be used as a way to bridge the gap between the digital divide, and provide opportunities for different people to participate in in different initiatives that are happening around us. there should be seen as an opportunity. So technology and sharing data for businesses to engage in and developing further opportunities for younger generations. I think citizen engagement is, and also citizen engagement is another kind of strategy, if you like, that can help businesses to and could provide opportunities for different stakeholders to be engaged. So when we talk about citizen engagement, if you start talking about data sharing, so in my experience with talking with businesses and talking with students, people have a lack of understanding of, they simply don't know what data sharing is or what smart thinking is. But that for me is an education piece from Christchurch City Council and other councils around New Zealand that should be engaging with their citizens to educate them about that. Citizen engagement, it can also provide opportunity for different stakeholders to start collaborating, to start those collaborative relationships. It can provide opportunities for jobs. It can provide opportunities for other initiative development. It is about developing a space for citizens, like literally physical space, where their connections, or perhaps during and after COVID, we can talk about developing a digital space where their concerns can be raised, their concerns can be heard by different stakeholders, and getting those citizens excited about innovative developing and being part of engaging in developing innovative solutions. And the key part with citizen engagement is the notion of being collective. So it's a notion of working together as different stakeholders. So we, for example, at the University of Canterbury, at our UC Entrepreneurship Centre, we actually have that space for people to come together, for people to start working together on different issues. However, that needs to go beyond universities if we want to tackle different issues and if we want to kind of develop equal opportunities to create to create the well-being for the country and the regions and local communities where people do not feel like they can't, for some reason, one reason or another, to come to the shared spaces. Building on international relations is another really, really important factor if we're talking about, about well-being or economic development of New Zealand as a whole. And we've seen this through the example about waste management, that those international connections, again, collaborating, could bringing waste back, shifting waste back to China, back to Christchurch from China, could have that been avoided if the relationships between say some countries in Southeast Asia where the rubbish comes back, right, and New Zealand, if those collaborations were stronger and nurturing, would that have solved the issue if there was some sort of open communication and open collaboration? And that's really important in terms of also sharing data, because European cities and European countries, they have this notion of sharing cities where they share data, they collectively work on issues such as using resources collectively that are available to different cities in different countries to work on, for example, climate change issues. And those sustainable development goals that a lot of nations now working towards to. So collaboration, education, and data sharing, it's really, really important in establishing those collaborative relationships with international partners. and provide learning opportunities for citizens. Because if we can provide learning opportunities and develop some platforms for our, say, younger generations, or for our businesses to learn why data sharing is not so scary, why data sharing can actually be beneficial, and there are a lot of companies, a lot of nations in European parts of the world that are doing it very, very well. But it's developing again. New Zealand, we do of course have international relations, strong international relations with other markets, but it is entering, I think, that New Zealand businesses need to learn that nurturing those relationships and spending resources, time and money is really, really important. It's kind of to wrap up my talk. So risk management is about understanding people and different stakeholders who are relevant to your different industries that you are operating in. If we provide right opportunities for people and for businesses and for communities through education, we essentially developing more platforms through that for our economic development in New Zealand. Thank you very much, and I will check. Please feel free to post any questions into the chat box, and also if you have any other, if you'd like to talk about anything else or engage in any sort of collaborations, please do find me on LinkedIn, and I'd be more than happy to connect. Thank you. I will check them.
Please put your questions into the Q&A platform now. We'll wait a couple minutes and hopefully we'll have something. Thanks, Anna.
I think, Paul, you've raised a hand.
If you just type your question straight into the platform Q&A, you need to type it in. Thank you. Any questions? Final chance. All right, Anna, I think there's no questions at the moment.
Right.
If there are any questions, please email me at adminofficer@risknz.org.nz. I'll pass them on to Anna and she'll be able to hopefully answer those for you. I'll take this opportunity to thank Anna for your very interesting presentation. I think we have all learned a lot today, so thank you very much. Thank you everybody for joining us today. This webinar has been recorded and we will share it with you in the next couple of days. Make sure you check our future newsletters for more upcoming events. Our lunchtime seminars wouldn't be possible without the support of our great sponsors. So thank you once again. And if you aren't already a member of RiskNZ, we'd love to have you join us. Get in contact through our website for more information. Then thank you once again for everyone for being here, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully at more RiskNZ events in the future. Thanks,
Okay.
Anna.
Thank you very much, Emma. Thank you for having me. Bye, everyone.
Bye.